There's a contract you signed a long time ago. You don't remember signing it. You've never read its terms. And yet, every single day, you honor it with a loyalty most people reserve for their deepest values. This contract dictates how much money you're allowed to make, how much love you're allowed to receive, how happy you're permitted to be. And here's the strange part. You didn't write it as the person you are now. You wrote it as a child, in moments of pain you barely remember, and you've been keeping its promises ever since. This is the subconscious contract, and until you find it and read it, it will keep running your life from the shadows. Let's begin with a question that might unsettle you. Have you ever noticed that no matter what you do, you seem to hit the same ceiling over and over? You get close to a goal, and something pulls you back. You build something good, and you quietly dismantle it. You reach a certain level of success, or love, or peace, and then, almost like clockwork, you sabotage it. Most people blame themselves. They think they lack discipline, or luck, or worthiness. But the truth is far more precise. You're not failing. You're succeeding perfectly at keeping a promise you don't remember making. Here's how these contracts get written. When you're a child, your mind is doing something extraordinary. It's trying to make sense of a world it doesn't understand, using very limited information. And in that process, it draws conclusions. Not logical, adult conclusions, but emotional survival rules. A child who learns that expressing needs leads to rejection writes a clause. I will not need anything from anyone. A child who watches a parent struggle with money and feels the family's fear writes a clause. It is not safe to have more than we had. A child who only received attention when achieving writes a clause. I am only lovable when I'm performing. These clauses aren't conscious. They're etched into the nervous system as truths, and the child vows, silently, to live by them forever. And here's what makes these contracts so powerful. To the subconscious mind, keeping them isn't about happiness, it's about safety. And more than that, it's about loyalty. Because these promises were often made to protect someone, or to stay connected to someone, or to make sense of someone's behavior. A child who decides I will never be as successful as my father, so he doesn't feel small, isn't being irrational. That child is choosing love over achievement. And decades later, the adult keeps mysteriously self-sabotaging their career, never understanding that they're honoring a childhood act of devotion. This is the part almost no one talks about. Your self-sabotage is often an expression of loyalty. When you fail to exceed your family's income, you might be keeping a silent promise not to abandon them by becoming different. When you stay small in your relationships, you might be honoring an unspoken agreement that you don't deserve more than your parents had. When you refuse to be truly happy, you might be unconsciously staying faithful to a parent who was miserable, because being happier than them feels like a betrayal. The subconscious doesn't distinguish between self-destruction and devotion. To it, they can be the same thing. Let's look at how these contracts actually show up in your life, because once you see them, you can't unsee them. The first sign is the recurring ceiling. There's a specific level of money, success, intimacy, or joy that you never seem to break past. Not because you can't, but because breaking it would violate the contract. Every time you approach the limit, an invisible force activates. Anxiety, self-doubt, a sudden urge to quit, a mysterious problem that appears out of nowhere. That force isn't weakness, it's the contract enforcing its terms. The second sign is the guilt of getting more. Have you ever achieved something wonderful and felt, instead of joy, a strange discomfort? A sense that you don't deserve it, or that something bad is coming to balance it out. That guilt is the contract talking. If your childhood taught you that you're only allowed a certain amount of good, then exceeding that amount triggers alarm. You feel like you're stealing something that isn't yours, when in reality, you're just approaching a boundary your younger self drew in the dark. The third sign is the invisible loyalty. Look at the ways your life mirrors the struggles of the people who raised you. The same financial patterns, the same relationship dynamics, the same emotional limitations. This isn't coincidence, and it isn't genetics alone. It's often a subconscious refusal to surpass them, because surpassing them feels like leaving them behind. We stay loyal to our origins in ways we'd never consciously choose, because the child in us believes that being different means being alone. Now, here's the question that changes everything. If you signed these contracts as a child, why are you, the adult, still honoring them? And the answer is simple, but profound. Because no one ever told you that you could renegotiate. The contract runs silently in the background, and you assume its terms are just reality. You think this is who I am, when really it's just what I once agreed to be. The clauses feel like facts. I'm just not good with money. I'm not the kind of person who gets loved like that. Success isn't for people like me. These aren't truths. They're outdated terms from a contract written by a frightened child who was doing their best to survive. So how do you break a contract you can't even remember signing? The first step is to make it conscious. You have to become a detective of your own patterns. Look at where you consistently hit a wall, and instead of asking what's wrong with me, ask a different question. What am I loyal to? What promise am I keeping by staying stuck here? Who was I trying to protect or stay connected to when I decided this was all I could have? These questions pull the contract out of the shadows and into the light, where its power begins to fade. The second step is to recognize that the contract has already served its purpose. That clause you wrote as a child was brilliant. It kept you safe. It kept you connected. It made a painful world survivable. You don't need to be ashamed of it or angry at it. You need to thank it, and then tell it the truth. That you're not a child anymore. That the danger it was protecting you from has passed. That the loyalty it demanded is no longer required for you to be loved. And the third step is the hardest and most liberating of all. You have to give yourself permission to write a new contract. You have to consciously decide that your worth is no longer conditional. That you are allowed to have more than the people who came before you. That being happy is not a betrayal of those who couldn't be. That you can love and be loved without earning it through performance. This isn't a one-time decision. It's a daily practice of choosing the new terms over the old ones, again and again, until your nervous system finally believes them. Because here's the truth that fear doesn't want you to know. Surpassing the people who raised you is not abandonment. It's the fulfillment of what they, at their best, wanted for you. Being happier than your parents doesn't dishonor their pain. It redeems it. The greatest loyalty you can offer the people who struggled isn't to struggle alongside them forever. It's to break the very chains they couldn't, and in doing so, free not just yourself, but everyone who comes after you. So the real question is this: what are the hidden promises you've been keeping? What contract are you honoring that was written in a language of fear you no longer need to speak? Somewhere inside you, a child made a vow to keep you safe. And now it's time, gently and with gratitude, to release them from that duty. Because you were never meant to spend your whole life protecting a version of yourself that no longer needs protecting. If this reached something deep in you, subscribe. We explore the hidden architecture of the mind that shapes the life you're living. Drop a comment and tell us which contract you're ready to rewrite. We read every one